Video games are a fun way to relax and escape from your daily life. We roam around these virtual worlds fulfilling objectives given to us. However, there is the alleged connection between violent video games and our behavior. Does this violence in one of the most popular video games, Call of Duty, really relate to the violence of this video? Dr. Kono Kono, a psychologist teacher, says that violent games are a factor.
How does violence in the media affect behavior?
Violence in the media, the major impact of violence in the media, I think, is on how it shapes our social values. There is a theory actually that we learn in psychology called the theory of reasoned action, which basically states that our behavior or actions, we rationalize them based on what we believe as valuable or important in our social interactions. So if there's a lot of violence portrayed in the media and is given a semblance of normality, that violence is acceptable and it's an everyday thing, then obviously people, especially the younger generation, will think that violent behavior is acceptable.
If the statement, violent video games make people violent, is true, then everyone that plays these games are violent. Do normal people play violent video games? Most likely. Do violent people play violent video games? Most likely. The cause of violence isn't the video game, it's the person. Most studies on violence in video games were done with people playing by themselves. People who play by themselves tend to show more signs of aggression and less cooperation with other players. People that are partnered up and playing violent video games show less aggressiveness and focus more on teamwork and assisting friends.
Okay. Hold up. I lost sight of him.
He's running from zombies. He might be coming in here.
Yeah, I'm coming downstairs.
Flicking the fool.
Got it.
Many studies say that violent video games encourage violence and aggressiveness. According to BBC News, video games cause people to become desensitized, however their responses are still normal for the non-violent negative scenes. Constantly, there are articles bagging on violent games being the causes for crime and violence. Parents are always blaming the bloody graphics, the gore and all that, but really, it's the parents that are to blame. They are the ones who can limit what content they can see and give the child what is appropriate for the age. If your 8-year-old child is playing GTA and you're saying that violent games make people violent, then aren't you a hypocrite?
What is your view about violent video games contributing towards violent behaviour?
I don't believe it actually affects the child's demeanour. I think children that are too young can be desensitised to violence by playing games that probably aren't suitable for their age bracket. But I think a person who is violent is not going to be overly influenced by video games. They will have that nature normally.
And what do you think are the main contributing factors towards this violence?
For the person or in video games?
For the person.
For the person. Sometimes I just think it can just be a lack of discipline at home. I think if the kids are allowed to sort of have their own rules and run amok, they tend to reflect that in society because they're not given any boundaries or any disciplinary control. But it's definitely not, in my opinion, caused by video games.
Do violent people play violent games? Probably. Do normal people play violent games? Probably. In the end, saying that violent video games make people violent is like saying that guns cause violence. Both aren't true when in fact it's the people that are the cause to violence.
And one of the most popular violent video games, Call of Duty, is released in November each year, starting in 2003. However, violence has actually decreased since then. Do you think this is proof of violence not being caused by video games?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at a lot of the games, I think most people, probably 80% of the population that buy games, understand it is a game. And like I was saying, they can use it as a stress release or just to have a bit of fun. But I definitely don't think it causes violent behaviour just because you like to pretend you're an army man and shoot people. I don't think that will cause you to go out and do that in public unless you already have that mental instability that would push you over the edge.